What's up everybody, it's Charles and I'm finally home from a trip to the mountains where we really put the test on the R32. In one of the last videos we talked about all the work that I had done to the car, brakes, tires, fluids, bushings, and all that was in a mad rush to get this car ready for this driving event in the North Carolina and Tennessee mountains. The last thing you want to do is have an unsafe car at the tail of the Dragon. I promised you guys I'd fill you in on how the car did and whether all that work paid off or not. I made it there and back safely, so already that's a win in my book. But more importantly, how did the car behave in the mountains? One of the most important aspects of your car, period, and especially when you're in those kind of conditions, are tires. Right before I left, I put new wheels and the Indy 500 tires on it. These are a 235/40/18, and they did amazing. They did take a little bit to warm up before they had the proper grip. There was one time where I think I asked for more than the tires were really prepared to give, but other than that, these were perfect. And I felt like for $106 a tire, they were an incredible value. Now, moving on to brakes, there were a lot of questions about brakes. Will these HPS Hawk pads hold up well? How about the stock tech rotors? Well, the good thing is in these environments in the mountains, you're actually not on the brake all that much. So the brakes I have on the car now were fantastic. Didn't ever come close to any brake pedal fade or worrying about the brakes not grabbing the way they're supposed to. Because I'm not heavy on the brake in these situations, because you really don't need to be, nor should you be, we may not have tested the brakes like we would at the track, but in that environment, I thought they performed really, really well. When it comes to suspension, we did H&R springs and Bilstein shock absorbers. The suspension is firm, but I think it's just like one step firmer than the car was from the factory. During some of the heavy cornering of the vehicle, I did notice a little bit more body roll than I really wanted, so I think the next modification on the car is probably going to be a rear sway bar. I'm excited to see how the car behaves with the factory rear sway bar versus an upgraded one, most likely from H&R. When it comes to engine and powertrain, everything went perfect. I would have loved another 500 or so RPM to really stay in a perfect power band during some of the turns, but that's being pretty nitpicky about it, and the car really did perform perfectly. In fact, it was one of those deals where I think the car had considerably more to give than I was willing to push it. If you guys haven't heard of this event, I've been talking about it for a couple of years. It's called Wookies in the Woods, and it's a driving event built around the Golf R, the R32 models. VW of America participates, so they had a 7.5 Golf R out there, which was pretty awesome. In addition to that, the event raises, I'm gonna guess, really close to $20,000 for this year for local charities, the Blount County Rescue, as well as another kids-related charity, which is what they do every year. So big ups to everybody that was there and for how much money you guys donated. Super awesome. Very proud to be one of the sponsors and to contribute to that event in that way. Another awesome thing about those roads, whether it be the Tail of the Dragon or some of the other local roads, which honestly, the Dragon is fun, but I think some of the other roads are even better. You don't need a high horsepower car in order to have a really good time. There were plenty of other cars out there, whether they were R32s, Golf Rs, or otherwise, with way more horsepower than this car right here. But the cool thing is if you're a good driver, you can actually hang with them pretty much the entire time. In fact, for most of the trip, there was either a supercharged Corrado with probably double the horsepower my car in front of me, or this S3 that were way faster cars, but again, in the turns and being a good driver, I was able to hang with them the whole time, and oftentimes I had to back off that supercharged Corrado to give them a little bit of space. Now, the drive home sucked. It was raining pretty much the entire time. In fact, several times where we were slowed down to about 20 miles an hour or so. But thankfully, during the event, up in the mountains, it was a beautiful drive, beautiful weather for both days, probably the nicest event weather I've had up there in the mountains. And while the Tail of the Dragon is one of those amazing, iconic events that you have to do while you're out there, like I mentioned, there are much better drives that are not far. We drove up to the Highlands, which was a little bit more scenic of a drive where you could actually pay attention to what was going on instead of being 1,000% focused on the driving. So that was really neat and a drive I'd never been on. Now, for those of you that have watched this entire video, I have something extra special for you. I talked with the guys from and actually got the R32 ECM tuned, which I'm pumped about, as well as the Haldex tune. What the Haldex tune does is change the torque strategy for the rear drive. So under full load, you actually get more to the rear wheels than the stock strategy had. On the ECM flash side, it's not a big horsepower monster, 10 to 15 wheel horsepower at max, The cool thing is that does add launch control as well as no lift shift, so you don't have to take your foot off the gas pedal in order to shift gears. I haven't tried either one of those. Unfortunately, I got that done Saturday night, well, technically Sunday morning, and because it was raining, I didn't really want to push the car very hard and slide off of the mountain. So I'll be doing some videos on that down the road once I get fully able to test those new tunes. I'm really excited about it. It was like 1:30 a.m. and they tuned my car for me. So mad ups to United Motorsports. I really appreciate the help and the info that they gave me, and I'm jazzed up to really put this car through its paces now that it's tuned versus how it behaved beforehand. The car did amazing. The event was wonderful. It was so great to meet so many fans of the show. I really appreciate all the support you guys that were at Wookies and got to hang out with you, take a bunch of selfies, hand out some swag, which is always fun. So with that, I'm out, and I will see you guys next April.